In the ancient tale of the Great Deluge, when the skies wept endlessly and the fountains of the deep burst forth, God commanded Noah to build an ark. A vessel of preservation, of divine instruction, crafted not from human whim, but by the heavenly blueprint revealed to a man who walked faithfully with his Creator. In that moment, the fate of every living being hinged on obedience to a command from above. 2 by 2, they came, animals of every kind, clean and unclean, wild and tame, crawling and flying. It was a moment of divine order amidst global chaos. But hidden within the folds of this familiar story lies a mystery, one seldom spoken, yet quietly present in Scripture and hinted at in ancient traditions. The question echoes, was there an animal forbidden to enter the ark? And if so, why? The account in Genesis is precise, yet also veiled in sacred mystery. God tells Noah to bring 2 of every kind of animal, and 7 pairs of the clean ones. But no list is given. Instead, Noah, through divine understanding or ancestral knowledge, knows which animals are clean and which are not, which are to be preserved and which may be excluded. In Jewish tradition and scattered apocryphal writings, whispers exist of creatures whose presence was denied. Not merely because of space or purpose, but because their nature clashed with the harmony of God's creation. Some suggest the Nephilim, giant hybrids born of heavenly rebellion and earthly union, had corrupted certain species. Beasts once majestic, now twisted by the intermingling of divine and fallen. Could it be that certain creatures bore this corruption? That some animals were no longer what God had made them to be? Some scholars point toward the dragon-like beasts or mythic serpents mentioned in Job and Isaiah, creatures of chaos and ancient rebellion. Perhaps these were not permitted on board. But beyond speculation, there are symbols. In many cultures, the cat, beloved by humans today, was viewed as a spiritual gatekeeper, yet also as an independent and prideful spirit. It is interesting that cats are not specifically mentioned in the scriptures. Could it be that their nature, aloof and resistant to hurting, made them incompatible with the orderly entry into the ark? Or was there something deeper? Consider also the toad and the frog, often used in ancient lore to symbolize uncleanliness, plague, or dark omens. In the book of Revelation, frogs emerge from the mouths of demonic spirits. Their association with impurity and the spiritual realm may offer a reason why they were not chosen, or not needed, to be preserved aboard the ark. Yet, they exist today, so did some survive apart from the ark, in water? Then there are creatures like the griffin, unicorn, or behemoth, animals spoken of in poetic language and mythical terms. Were these symbolic? Or were they real creatures, now extinct, denied access to the ark because of divine design? But the true question may not lie in the identity of the forbidden animal, but in the reason behind the exclusion. What does it mean to be unworthy of salvation? To be so far from the divine image that preservation is no longer the will of God? These are questions that echo into our time, not merely for animals, but for mankind itself. Imagine Noah, standing at the door of the ark, watching the procession. Some animals approach willingly, others guided by unseen forces. Then one creature stops at the threshold, majestic, mysterious, but burdened with a shadow. Perhaps it once walked among angels, or bore the mark of divine favor, but now it carried something else. And in that instant, the command was clear, do not let it enter. What did that creature feel? Was it aware of its judgment? Did it turn away, back into the storm, as the door closed with the sound of finality? And what became of it? This tale is more than curiosity. It is a reflection of divine discernment. Not everything created was chosen. Not every spirit was preserved. The ark was not a zoo, it was a covenant, a container of divine intention. And to be inside meant to be part of God's future. The story is only beginning. In the next part, we will explore ancient writings, lost books, and the secrets of species that vanished from memory. What was their origin? What was their sin? And what do they reveal about the heart of the Creator? Continue watching. Like and subscribe. The ark is more mysterious than you were ever told. Eternity does not measure time as mankind does. Where divine light never fades, time itself bends to the eternal will of God. The angels watch in reverent silence. Those who remain by the throne, the cherubim and seraphim, have always known the plan, though its depths are understood only by the Spirit who hovered over the waters in the beginning. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All things were made through him, and without him, nothing was made that has been made. But when the heavens trembled with Lucifer's pride, a hidden mystery stirred in the heart of the Most High, a plan of redemption sealed before the foundation of the world. The Son would be the Lamb, slain for the sins of a creation yet to fall. On the earth, man was formed from dust, yet with a breath of divine life. His soul ignited with God's light, his purpose tied not to the soil beneath his feet but to the throne above the stars. But temptation whispered from the shadows, and the serpent moved subtly through Eden. With a single act of rebellion, man's connection to divine life fractured, not lost, but severed. And yet, heaven did not abandon earth. The voice of God still walked through the garden in the cool of the day. The Almighty clothed Adam and Eve, not just in garments, but in a prophetic shadow. One day, blood would cover sin, not the blood of animals, but the blood of the one promised to crush the serpent's head. Time passed. Kingdoms rose and fell. Angels descended, some in obedience, others in defiance. The watchers, beings of might and mystery, looked upon the daughters of men. Desire clouded their judgment. They descended, breaking the eternal boundary, and with them came forbidden knowledge, arts and weapons, enchantments and corruptions. The Nephilim were born, giants with violent hearts and eyes that burned with celestial fire. The earth groaned under the weight of their presence. Humanity cried out, not in prayer, but in war. Blood soaked the soil. The cries of the oppressed reached the heavens. Then came judgment. The flood was not just punishment. It was cleansing, a divine reset. The ark, floating upon the chaos, became a symbol of both wrath and mercy. 8 souls were saved, and with them, the promise continued. The lineage was preserved, a thread unbroken, stretching through generations toward a single moment, the birth of the Redeemer. Meanwhile, in the unseen realm, the fallen were bound. Chained in darkness, they awaited a day they could not escape, the day of the Lord. But whispers still moved among the nations. Babylon rose with its tower. Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord, became a symbol of rebellion. Humanity sought to ascend by their own might, to reclaim what had been lost, without repentance. But God scattered them, divided their tongues, and planted the seed of nations. Among them, one man was chosen, Abram. To him was given a promise, not of land alone, but of legacy, a seed that would bless all the families of the earth. From his loins came Isaac, and from Isaac, Jacob. The story unfolded like a scroll written by divine hands. Every page revealed more of the mystery, sacrifices, shadows, symbols, the blood of lambs on doorposts, the fire on Mount Sinai, the veil in the temple. All of it pointed to one figure, the one who would come not in majesty, but in humility. And the heavens waited. Angels leaned close. Demons trembled in anticipation. The war for souls intensified in unseen dimensions. Then, in the fullness of time, a virgin conceived. In a manger, surrounded by animals and silence, the Creator stepped into creation. The Word became flesh. The King was born, not in a palace, but among the poor. Emmanuel. God with us. But even then, darkness moved. Herod sought his life. The dragon stood before the woman, ready to devour the child as soon as it was born. But the plan was already sealed. The bloodline was protected. The light had entered the world, and the darkness could not overcome it. Still, few understood. The boy grew. He confounded teachers in the temple. He worked with his hands, walked among the forgotten, and waited, for the hour appointed before the foundations of the earth. And when he rose to speak, the earth would never be the same. And so the generations rolled on, like waves upon the eternal shore, each name in the genealogy of Jesus a mystery, a fragment of divine orchestration. The promise of redemption hidden within human weakness, concealed beneath layers of failure, scandal, and unexpected grace. But now, as the thread tightens, a new figure emerges in the sacred scroll, Ruth, the Moabitess. She was not born among the chosen people. She came from Moab, a land cursed and shamed, descended from the incestuous union of Lot and his daughter. Moab was a reminder of mankind's darkest instincts, a nation born of moral ashes. And yet, in Ruth, the divine pen paused, dipped in mercy, and wrote something holy. Her story was not one of grand visions or prophetic fire, it was one of quiet loyalty, steadfast love, and fierce courage. She chose to follow her mother-in-law Naomi, abandoning her gods, her homeland, and all familiarity. With tear-streaked eyes and trembling lips, she spoke words that echoed across eternity, "Your people shall be my people, and your God my God." That decision, simple, raw, and painful, rewrote her destiny. In the barren fields of Bethlehem, Ruth gleaned what others left behind, gathering grain under the burning sun, unaware that the Lord of the harvest was preparing her heart for something greater. Boaz, the kinsman redeemer, saw her. Not merely with human eyes, but with the gaze of providence. He saw a woman of valor, a soul clothed in humility, a vessel of grace waiting to be filled. Their union was not just a marriage, it was the weaving of another thread in the tapestry of redemption. Ruth became the great-grandmother of King David. From a foreign woman, an outsider, came the bloodline of Israel's greatest king. And beyond that, the Messiah himself. How could it be that a Moabitess would be grafted into the lineage of the Holy One? This was not human logic. This was not religious tradition. This was divine mystery. The story of Ruth reveals a God who breaks barriers, who honors faithfulness over pedigree, who sees value where others see shame. It is the heartbeat of the gospel hidden in the Old Testament, whispering of a future where Gentiles would be welcomed, where outsiders would become family. In Ruth, we glimpse the gentleness of Christ before his arrival, the one who dines with sinners, who embraces the unclean, who calls the last to be first. She represents the scandal of grace. This genealogy, now deeper, richer, more unpredictable, continues its march through time. The names continue to speak. Jesse, David, Solomon. But the pattern has been established. God does not choose the perfect. He chooses the surrendered. He chooses Rahab, the prostitute. Ruth, the foreigner. Tamar, the disgraced. Each woman not only part of the Messiah's bloodline, but reflections of his mission. Their stories, interwoven, challenge our assumptions. The divine story is not sterile. It is not polished. It is raw, filled with dirt, tears, and brokenness. And yet, it is holy. Because God himself stepped into that mess, and called it beautiful. So we ask, what does your bloodline hold? What redemption may still rise from your ruins? The genealogy of Jesus is not merely a list, it is an invitation. To see yourself in the margins. To believe that grace can reach into your Moab, into your Jericho, into your night. The third woman, Ruth, teaches us that faithfulness in obscurity often leads to legacy in eternity. And the scroll continues. In the silence beyond the stars, where even the angels whisper, lies a truth not yet revealed to man. It is in this sacred stillness that the Lamb walks, unseen, unmeasured, and unchallenged. He carries a scroll sealed with fire, a decree from the Ancient of Days. The heavens hold their breath, for the opening of that scroll will echo through the ends of the cosmos. You must understand, this is not mere poetry. The book exists. It was hidden since before the foundation of the world. Its pages do not contain ink but the living breath of God. When the Lamb opens it, creation responds. Winds shift. Thrones tremble. Stars fall into alignment. The scroll is not just a message, it is the unveiling of divine intent. It holds the fate of kings, the names of the redeemed, the timing of judgments, and the mystery of all ages. And it is being opened. As each seal breaks, a new reality unfolds. With the first, a rider appears, bearing a crown and a bow, conquest unleashed. The second, a red horse, war. The third, famine. The fourth, death. The heavens don't just narrate history, they ignite it. But the fifth seal is different. It is not a rider. It is a cry. Underneath the altar of God are the souls of those who were slain for the word and the testimony they carried. Their voices rise like incense, echoing with one plea, "How long, O Lord, until you avenge our blood?" And to each of them is given a white robe, and they are told to rest a little longer. This is not myth. This is unfolding. Right now, as you listen, seals are breaking. When the sixth seal opens, the earth convulses. The sun turns black. The moon bleeds red. Mountains move. Islands vanish. The kings of the earth hide in caves, begging for death rather than facing the wrath of the Lamb. And still, many do not repent. Such is the hardness of man's heart. But there is a pause. Heaven waits. A moment of divine mercy. In this pause, angels are sent to mark the servants of God. Not with ink or brands, but with the seal of the living God on their foreheads. These are the remnant, the ones who will not bow, the ones who shine like stars in the darkest hour. 144,000, sealed, not a number of limitation, but of symbolism and purpose. And then comes the great multitude, too vast to count. From every nation, tribe, and language. Clothed in white. Holding palms. Crying, "Salvation belongs to our God, and to the Lamb." They did not escape tribulation, they came through it. Their robes are washed in blood. Their tears are wiped by God Himself. No more hunger. No more thirst. No more scorching heat. The Lamb becomes their shepherd, and He leads them to living fountains of water. This is not the end. It is the beginning. Because when the seventh seal is opened, heaven falls silent. For half an hour, there is no sound, no singing, no crying, no thunder. Just silence. A sacred hush. The kind that only comes before something eternal. Then an angel approaches the altar with incense, mixing it with the prayers of the saints. And fire is thrown to the earth. The trumpets are about to sound. But we will speak of that soon. As the ark drifted upon the chaotic waters, a sanctuary amidst divine judgment, the silence it carried concealed countless stories never recorded. Yet one mystery continues to stir curiosity across generations: which creatures were truly denied entry? The image of 2 by 2 is deeply ingrained, yet the reality holds more complexity than often imagined. The ancient world, according to many rabbinic traditions and extra-canonical texts, was teeming with hybrid beings, animals born of unnatural unions and corrupted essence. These were not part of God's original creation but were distorted versions of life itself. The Book of Enoch and other apocryphal sources speak of the Watchers, fallen angels, who not only corrupted humankind but also tampered with the animal kingdom. These angels introduced forbidden knowledge and genetic manipulation, leading to creatures that were neither fully beast nor divine intention. These hybrid beasts, some with multiple heads, wings of unnatural structure, or twisted limbs, were believed to be part of the reason for the flood. The earth had become saturated not only with violence and immorality but also with corrupted life forms. God instructed Noah to preserve only those creatures that remained pure, that had not been genetically defiled or perverted in their kind. Among the speculated animals denied entry are those that, although known today, were not part of the clean or unclean categories as later defined by Mosaic law. Many scholars and spiritual thinkers have pondered the case of cats. While not mentioned explicitly in the Bible, cats do not appear on the list of animals deemed clean for sacrifice, nor are they central to Hebrew life and symbolism as other animals like sheep or oxen. Cats were revered in Egypt, a land often symbolizing spiritual corruption in biblical contexts. Some traditions suggest that domestic cats might have been a post-flood development, emerging as humans began to settle and store grain, thus attracting rodents and, consequently, cats. Others believe their origin may have come from outside the ark due to their spiritual association with ancient pagan religions. The toad or frog, symbolically tied to plagues and demonic manifestations, especially in the Book of Revelation, also stirs speculation. Frogs appear in the second plague of Egypt, representing impurity and defilement. While amphibians in general may have been included for ecological balance, the notion of impure species, born through corruption lingers in some teachings, suggesting that certain amphibians might not have had a place aboard the ark due to unnatural origins. It is essential to understand that not entering the ark doesn't always imply total extinction. The waters of the flood were purifying, but not all life outside the ark perished permanently. Some species may have evolved, reappeared, or been recreated post-flood, either by divine will or human cultivation. There's also the theory that some animals were small enough or aquatic enough to survive in natural ways, hidden in crevices, eggs, or under protection of divine grace. But beyond individual species, the greater narrative points toward spiritual purity. The ark became a filter, a divine reset not just for mankind, but for the whole of creation. Animals that were not chosen symbolized the necessity of alignment with God's design. This becomes a prophetic echo of future judgment, where only those in alignment with truth and purity shall pass through the storm. There are even deeper mysteries when considering the mythical creatures known in ancient cultures, dragons, unicorns, and sirens. Could these beings have existed before the flood as corrupted versions of animals? Some texts suggest so. The mention of Leviathan and Behemoth in Job and Psalms hints at monstrous beings created but then reserved or hidden. These were not fit for the new earth to come and thus were not included in the ark's preservation. In rabbinical tradition, there is the story of the Re'em, a giant creature too large to fit on the Arkansas. It is said that God instructed Noah to tie the Re'em to the ark with a massive rope so it could follow without entering. Whether literal or allegorical, this tale signifies the vastness and complexity of pre-flood life, which our modern understanding can scarcely grasp. The ark's narrative invites reflection not only on the animals that entered but on what was left behind, and why. Each omission was deliberate. The animal kingdom, once a picture of divine harmony, had been fragmented by rebellion, both human and angelic. The flood was a return to order, a cleansing that restored the rhythm of creation. And so, as Noah looked upon the rising waters and the trembling beasts under his care, he bore witness not only to survival but to the unveiling of a divine filter, where even among animals, judgment had spoken. As the last echoes of the flood's fury faded into silence, and the sun pierced through clouds that had once wept divine wrath, the ark found rest upon the mountains of Ararat. The world, once overflowing with wickedness, now stood still, cleansed, quiet, and utterly transformed. Yet, while every living being inside the ark represented survival, there remained a haunting truth: something, or perhaps many things, had been left behind. The animals saved were chosen not only for their species, but also for what they represented: obedience, order, and alignment with the Creator's intent. But what of those that were not chosen? What of the animal forbidden to enter the ark? Its absence was not an accident. It was judgment. Some say the forbidden animal was real, a living, breathing entity whose very existence defied divine order. Others say it was a symbol, the embodiment of rebellion, corruption, and the unnatural unions birthed by a fallen world. There are legends of beasts created not by God, but by twisted experimentation and dark knowledge, born of unions between the sons of God and the daughters of men, or crafted in secret by men who longed to imitate the Creator without reverence or restraint. Ancient texts like the Book of Enoch speak of creatures not made in the 6 days of creation, not named by Adam, and not breathed into by the Spirit of life. These were creatures of chaos, chimeras, hybrids, things that walked upright but bore the instincts of beasts. They did not enter the ark because they were not part of the divine design. They were an echo of corruption, not creation. There are whispers in forgotten writings, scrolls hidden in desert caves, of an animal with iron-like fur and ember-lit eyes, able to mimic the voices of both beast and man. When the rains began to fall, it approached the ark, imitating the sounds of the chosen. But Noah, warned in a dream, knew it was not from God. Though it howled, slithered, and hissed at the door, the Creator had sealed it shut. No cry, no trick, no deception could open it. Other legends tell of the cat, a creature so mysterious, so independent, that its place in the ark remains debated. Some say it was created aboard the ark itself, born from a lion's sneeze to control the rats. Others believe it was excluded altogether, its solitary nature symbolizing spiritual pride. The frog, straddling land and water, became in later scriptures a symbol of plague and instability, perhaps left behind because it embodied duality, not purity. And then there were the dragons, the leviathans, the mythical beings of old, not just stories, but spiritual metaphors for forces too chaotic to be confined. The leviathan, massive and eternal, had no place among creatures 2 by 2. Its destiny lay beyond the flood, in battles of the end times. What ties these legends together is not biology, but message. The ark was not simply a boat, it was a vessel of holiness, a container for the continuation of divine order. To be excluded was not a logistical error, it was a moral and spiritual judgment. The forbidden animal represents all that stands outside the will of God, the proud, the corrupted, the self-made idols of flesh. Some say the creature clawed at the ark, imitating lambs and doves, trying to trick its way aboard. But its nature could not be hidden. God does not judge by appearance, but by essence. It was a creation without creator, a being without blessing. And so, as the ark rose above the waves, the creature was consumed by the deep, not merely drowned, but erased from the fabric of redemption. And yet, its story echoes across time. Every generation crafts new, forbidden animals, ideologies, inventions, perversions of life that, while fascinating and alluring, do not belong in the ark of divine truth. These are not just beasts, they are choices, ideas, lifestyles, and hearts that resist obedience. The story asks us not just what entered the ark, but who we are in relation to it. Are we the chosen, walking in the order of God? Or are we mimics at the door, rejected not out of cruelty, but righteousness? Even the mythical phoenix is said to have refused the ark, choosing instead to burn and rise again on its own terms. A symbol of prideful independence. Salvation on one's own terms is no salvation at all. And the unicorn? Some tales claim it tarried, dancing in beauty and confidence, unwilling to submit to Noah's authority, and missed the boat. Pride delays, and pride perishes. So the ark landed. The doors opened. Life spilled out onto a cleansed earth. But there were no cats in sight. No dragons. No mimic beasts with iron fur. Only the pure, the chosen, the ones God called. The ones who entered when the call was made. The memory of what was left behind, of what had been denied entry, remained only in legend, caution, and the occasional whisper in ancient scripture. This tale does not end on dry land. It ends in the human heart. The ark, in every generation, sails again, not through water, but through time. Its door remains open, for now. And once again, some are being called to enter. But not all will respond. The forbidden animal is not just a creature. It is rebellion itself. It is pride. It is what we become when we choose our way over God's way. And just like in the days of Noah, it will not survive what comes next. Which are you?